Hello, beautiful souls. As we're in these final days here, until we see things heat up in a pretty dramatic way, of course, Leo rules drama, for the summer, I saw that Shawn Ryan and Candace Owens ended up doing a collaboration, 4 hours and 44 minutes. We're definitely not going to watch the whole thing, but I did pick out a couple parts that I found really noteworthy because, and we'll talk about this more after we get through the clips, as we get through the clips, but it felt like a very big foreshadowing of what we're really going to see come in the next few years, but also over the summer. It deals a lot with the mass awakening that we're seeing, and it's interesting because I would say there was another mass awakening that happened during COVID, but it was one I think you kind of could see it more. Maybe it's because people have more time and were on their phones more. I don't know. It felt like you could actually outwardly see this awakening happening more during COVID times than you can now. But you definitely see it. It gets with the, especially the Israel issue and the JQ, which would be like the Jewish question. And really, this JQ gets a bad reputation, I think, because people will associate JQ with having hate for all Jews or something. And there are people who identify in the JQ who do carry that kind of energy with them. But I'm not even necessarily referring to that. It's just smaller things like how they have a term for us called goy, which means cattle, that kind of stuff, and the way in which Jewish culture interacts with our own culture. So when I say JQ, I'm talking more about that. But, you are seeing this awakening that's happening right now and all that, but it's definitely a different vibe that we're seeing. So some of the things we're going to get into with some of these clips, and a little prerequisite I'll give with the Leo energy. Now, this isn't something that I've seen other astrologers really tap into, but it's definitely there. If you're looking at Jesus or Christ, Christianity, these types of things, a heavy association with Leo energy and with the sun. At its core, it is solar worship, it's sun worship. And then, there's, when you're getting into the actual religious structures, these fall into more Saturnian, Jupiterian modes. And it really just depends on which sect of the church that you have going on, stuff like that. So I don't want to not acknowledge that those things are going on, but at its essence, Christ is a very Leo idea. It is the sun with the solar worship, but it's also the authenticity, the truth, the way, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of some of the more stuff that we'll touch on, because we are going to have the South Node going into Leo. That's going to be on the 26th, while Jupiter is also in Leo. And then as you have that happen on the 26th with Jupiter also in Leo, the sun is going to be in Leo, and it's going to be conjunct with Jupiter. And then these are going to be in opposition with the Pluto and Aquarius that we have. So this is like where we can see another type of big thing that happens. And I think a lot of it's going to be related to the themes that are in this interview. And I even, looking at the astrology of today and with what's going on in the sky, something noteworthy that we have, it's not exact yet, but the Mars-Uranus conjunction. And so is this going to be the trigger point, what I'm terming on this channel, the Trinity trigger, because of the three outer planets that are in the works right here that are forming a mini grand trine? Is this going to be the Trinity trigger that we have the 4th of July that leads into the events we'll see unfolding through the rest of the month, through the rest of the summer, up until like the end of the year, really, where it starts to slow down a little bit, these types of things. But it feels like a major foreshadowing. So we're going to dive right in, and I will add commentary as we go into it and everything, and they discuss some of these things. But I just found it really interesting because this video is already at almost 1 million views, 900,000 something views. It's not even at 12 hours. It's been up for 11 hours at this point where I'm recording this. So it's I just think it's really blowing up pretty fast. Now, Shawn Ryan stuff, usually months later, you can see it getting a lot of views, a lot of stuff like 3 million views, that kind of stuff. But for it to do this many so soon, 1 million without even being not only in the first 24 hours, but the first 12 hours, pretty astonishing. So this is something that's definitely spreading around. And as I said, I do think it's a major foreshadowing of what we're going to see coming down the pike. So let's hop right in here. All right, so I got it at a good spot here. I was afraid there for a second that my mouse died, but it's good. There we go. All right, so this part that we started at, I didn't write anything down for this, but if I remember right, this is talking about Trump and Vance in their recent pivot towards kind of anti-Israel and stuff like that. So we're going to take this one for a little bit. This will be the longest of the segments that we watch. So it should be, I don't know, like anywhere from 7-8 minutes, like something like that. But let's get started.
Poppy seeds. An opioid crisis.
What do you think is going to happen in the midterms? What actually? Let me back up. Now you see Trump speaking out against Israel. You see Vance. I don't buy it either. You see Trump and Vance. Now all of a sudden, it's like, where the fuck did this come from?
It all seems very performative to me, and I'm not sure why they're moving to, I guess, this new act, so to speak.
Because they're destroyed.
Yeah. Maybe because midterms
they're completely destroyed.
Maybe because midterms are around the corner?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, they're fucking destroyed.
So they're going to pretend he's like Mr. Tough Guy again and standing up to Bibi. It's all very performative.
Do you think people are going to buy this shit?
No.
Do you think Israel's in on the act?
Yes.
Me too.
I think you should take the Mossad at their word when they say we are the directors, the actors, we can infiltrate any organization, any company. We're the script writers. I believe that.
That's a 60 Minutes interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After referring to, how they were able to infiltrate and get the PETN explosive, PETN, into the beepers, and how they created all these fake companies with, fake employees. And I think about, when I hear those words, Charlie and his life, and how I think it became an Israeli Truman Show, but similar for Trump. Everyone around him is just working for a higher boss, and it's the Rothschilds and it's Israel. So all of that is performative. I mean, I couldn't be motivated to vote for midterms.
Yeah, me neither.
Especially after what we saw happen with Thomas Massey, where they're just so in our face about it now, where they're like, we don't like you. If you have a point against Israel, we'll spend.
That's the only thing I can't really put together in my head is we see this act. We see all of a sudden everybody's a tough guy against Israel. Like, oh, right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right around the corner from midterms. But I also don't really believe in the election system because of all kinds of shit we've seen. Spencer Pratt's race, probably the most recent one, Massey's race. So if the elections are phony, then why do they give a shit about the act?
Because the illusion matters.
Why does it matter?
Because think about if truly tomorrow they came out and said, your vote doesn't mean anything. We've been running the election since the beginning of time. We kill people in broad daylight. Yeah, we did JFK. We did Charlie and we're going to keep doing whatever the hell we want. So F you.
You think something would actually happen?
Yeah. Because it's actually something Charlie said to me when we were traveling once. He said, one of his little pop quizzes, what is one thing that every civilization that has ever had slavery since the beginning of human history, what is one thing that every single one of those civilizations has in common?
I don't know.
I didn't know either. And he said there were always more slaves than masters.
And yeah, so I love the energy here that Candace is channeling. And it's funny because we first started out this clip, she's talking about how performative Trump and Vance are being right now. And then immediately you can tie that to the Leo energy. And, we've just had Jupiter enter Leo too. So that's an interesting thing. And so it seems to be timed, not necessarily exactly, but timed right around when we had Jupiter enter Leo. We start getting this performance around being anti-Israel when they're totally in bed with Israel. With all the decisions, they've been looking the other way as all this stuff is happening, but you're just getting this immense performance and all that. But also, I think this is where we see, and this is a process that's going to take a few years, and 2028 is a big year for that too, but where we see these things begin. Okay. And with that, I wrote down no faith in elections, how she's talking about if they told us about what's going on with the election system, and that really what's more important is that we have the illusion of that we have the electoral system. If we see it, like really the illusions breaking down is the big part. And so what are we going to have come out that really makes us not trust and believe in the people in control? And so this gets into that placement we're coming in on the 26th here, which is the South Node in going into Leo. And the South Node, it's the energy that it transiting South Node is going to be the energy that we're clinging on to, but that needs to be fully released. And Leo deals with people that are in power. It deals with the crown, the figurehead, the regent, the king. It deals with that kind of energy. So the people that we have been allowing to run and to be the authority figure. And remember that Leo is the opposite sign of Aquarius, which deals with the collective, with the people and all that. We've got Pluto there this whole time in the 26th that I'm talking about here. And that's just the date we come into it. We're going to be in these placements for a while around then too. Never quite an exact date when we're doing the astrology and all this, just kind of a time frame that we give for this stuff. But when you're dealing with Pluto, that's in Aquarius in that opposition, and earlier I didn't even mention, these are both going to be squaring both Pluto, and then the Sun and Jupiter are going to be squaring Chiron in Aries, or I'm sorry, in Taurus there at 0 degrees Taurus. Chiron now has been in Aries for like 8 years or so, but it's still at 0 degrees Taurus. We're just dipping into Chiron and Taurus, and we're tapping back out. And with Chiron Taurus, this really deals with the foundations of things, having a wound around the foundations, especially when we have Saturn in Aries, which is the structures, the institutions. We just had a full moon in Capricorn. Okay. And that's about what's about to be released here, especially around the 4th of July, 4th going into like the 14th of July, somewhere in there. What's going to be released around the institutions? What crack are we going to see in the institutions? So that's really important too. So we have a jam-packed month here of July right ahead of us. And but anyway, to get back to that whole thing, the leadership thing right here, what illusions are going to shatter around the leadership too, okay, when you got that mix of planets that are going on. And so this is why I feel it's really a foreshadowing of these things. And with actually another thing with Leo too, with that Leo energy, is both Trump and JD Vance are Leo risings. Okay, so with that Leo rising energy, it's coming in and about to, not really about to, but at some point in the next year, that Jupiter is going to be crossing both of their ascendants. And Trump doesn't really look long for this world, by the way. I think if you're paying attention to him, his health is suffering. So this is a prediction that I put out earlier, which is a death of the king kind of energy. Okay, king would just be the figurehead, the person who's leading, the person in charge and all that stuff. But so that's an aspect that you can throw into here. But what will that cause? Because if JD Vance were to get in, this would cause that means essentially that you've got Peter Thiel in, and he's in charge of the AI surveillance state, essentially, that all these data centers that are being put in, it's not just so we can have fun and tinker around on AI, because it's not profitable. AI isn't profitable. Look at OpenAI, for example. It's needing to, they're losing, hemorrhaging money, and what their hope is that they're going to be subsidized by the government. And this gets into whatever financial crash we have coming, which I think is later in the year, like a bigger financial upheaval, downturn. This deals with the war. All these things are moving behind the scenes, and we got all the astrology to back these things up. As when they're happening, the transiting astrology that's behind it, but then also what we see going forward. And this gets into the Venus and Mars retrograde and Mercury retrograde that we're going to have later on this year too. So that's a big thing with it. But anyway, to just wrap all that around into it and say she's really honing in on us moving away from looking to our leaders for a lot of this stuff. That's the energy that we're going to be moving away from, but also some people will be clinging to heavily. And keep that in your mind here, that Leo energy and the association I brought in with Christ, with the church, with all that stuff, because it is going to be something, I don't know if it's the next clip here, but we're going to move to the next clip, but it's going to be something that her and Shawn Ryan get into as they're talking about it here. So let's go a little bit forward. Got it at 4. Was it exactly 4? Yeah, exactly there.
You see the videos. It's disgusting. It's the most, and they beat these people and they take their land and that's it. It's all theirs now.
Well, there's going to be a big, is there going to be a big Trump hotel there now?
Well, that was Trump himself tweeted the Trump resort, whatever it was, of like, this is what Gaza could be. It was the most despicable thing that I've ever seen. You wonder who tweeted it because Trump doesn't know how to use AI. He's not authoring his own tweets. It was absolutely tasteless. But
did you see what was that thing that he posted about him being Jesus? Who what was that?
Oh, he didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he didn't fucking know. He didn't know there was fucking demons in the sky either, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Just more of the really gross stuff.
Are they just mocking Christians or what? Like, what is this?
Well, they hate Christians. They're taught to hate Christians. They spit on our children.
Do you think Trump hates Christians?
They train their children to spit. I don't think he loves us.
Because he's the one that posted it.
Yeah. I mean, Trump's never pretended to be a Christian. I think he's been pretty open about the fact that he certainly favors Israel. Like,
he's got a 99% approval rating over it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's also said several times he doesn't think he's going to heaven.
Yeah, I think he's kind of made his bed. I don't think he's going to heaven either. If it means anything, I don't get to decide, but I don't, just objectively looking at everything, I wouldn't bet on him in heaven either. You want people to change, you hope they change, but it's kind of hard when you just see what's going on there to imagine that that's a ticket to heaven, you know?
Yeah.
What he's allowing to happen. It's like he's obsessed with earthly riches and he's got such short time to live. You'd think that you'd hope that toward the end of your life, you would want to right wrongs and be a good person, because you know you're going to meet your maker soon. So that's one of the more stunning things is like, Trump's going to die soon just because he's going to die soon. He's in his 80s. That's how it works. Joe Biden's going to die soon. They're all going to die soon. So it's usually a good time to not beget evil. Yep. Try to get right with God. I don't know. Final stretch. You try to sprint last stretch. And it's interesting to see Trump sort of do the opposite. And I just go, okay, that's interesting.
Man.
I don't even wish any ill toward Trump. I don't have any anger. It's worse. It's pity.
You don't have any anger?
I pity him. I pity a man who has relinquished what was a real power. People loved him, believed in him, thought that he could change things. I pity for earthly riches.
Yeah.
To give that up, I don't know. And that will be his legacy. I always pity weak men. Because I just think there is something so natural in the way that God designed it for men to lead, for men to be strong, for men to be forthright. And so when you see men that are weak, it does draw from me frustration, but also pity. That's not what God designed you to be, you know?
I almost wish I had pity for him, but I just don't.
Yeah. How do you not? He's a slave. He's got all this stuff and he's a slave.
Because he's a voluntary slave. He made the fucking decision.
He made the
He
decision.
wasn't forced into it. He's a greedy piece of shit.
He just wanted to be president. And he was short-sighted. I think he's living in a prison every day.
I fucking hope he is.
Yeah. He's not loved, and that matters to him. And I don't know. I don't think I'm angry with him, no. I think I'm just equal parts disgusted. I think it's pitiful. That's what, I mean, when going back to the question you first asked me, what's it like having and I'm like, I even forgot. That's how powerless he's become. It's not even something I hold on to a couple of weeks later. It's just, poor Trump, you know? Poor Trump.
Poor Trump.
All right. And so some interesting things right there too. We've still got 2 more clips to watch, but I figured I'd go full screen. Interesting clips there because you know, this, so what was I just saying in the after we watched the last clip? It was you know, Trump not really looking good, his astrology not being good, especially coming up here soon, of see these major transits he has where it's very possible he may not be with us much longer, stuff like that. And they even brought out the possibility of, okay, well, who takes over? That's going to be Vance, and what happens with that? A lot of these things that could be happening are in light. Now, I'm not necessarily saying they're going to happen, but what I am saying is they are totally with the astrology there as options that we have on the table for things to happen. But yeah, with so it was interesting that you saw another thing right there, Candace channeling that of this idea of Trump perhaps not being around us soon. And of course, the way she framed it was like, hey, like, he's just an old man, you know, like, it is what it is. Like, is he really going to be around that much longer? But I just find it interesting, and this is why there was just something very much from this I was pulling on, that I'm like, I really think this is foreshadowing a lot of this astrology that we're coming up on now, when we're right at the precipice of this astrology hitting in a major way. And then another thing they brought up was people no longer believing in their leaders. That was really interesting too, because what did we just talk about with this Leo energy? Well, it's the whole leadership thing, you know? And like how Leo is the leadership. They're even talking about like men, like being strong men. You know, we need strong men and weak men. So with the South Node, and that's going to be for the next year and a half, transiting Leo, I also think that there's a part of this South Node transit over Leo that's going to deal with us identifying who are the strong men, who are the weak men, who are the fake leaders, the people in fake positions of leadership, where they really are just weak, or they're just puppets. And then who are, you know, or they aren't authentic, essentially, because Leo rules authenticity. Who are those people? And then who are the actual real leaders, the people of real authority, and you know, authenticity, the people that we really can, it seems as if we can trust them. But then also knowing that we're moving away from putting all of our trust into figureheads like that. I think it's a year and a half process of us really reevaluating that. And of course, the whole time that the South Node is transiting this, and this is that energy we're moving away from, at the same time, of course, you'll see some people clinging to that energy. You got the North Node that's going to be in Aquarius, which rules with the collective, it rules technology, all these things. Now, of course, we have Pluto there in the same time. This is where a lot of the AI stuff comes in, because there's this technology rulership that comes with Aquarius too. And so is this technology over the collective? You know, that this gets into the data center stuff, the control grid stuff. Golden Dome by 2028 is going to be live operational just a few days before the election, by the way, that we have that year. So you've got that kind of running in the background of all this. Pluto is the underworld. It really brings a lot of these themes from the underworld, and repression, suppression, those kind of things through. So this is where you can really have this idea of the control grid coming in. And so it's either going to be power going back to the people, or we willingly walk into a power that's put onto us. And this is going to have to deal a lot with whatever event it is that we see get pushed, most likely here over the summer. I would be shocked if it wasn't over the summer. With the astrology we're looking at, I would be completely shocked. And I already have several predictions out about what those things could be. That's on my 4th of July conjunction stream here on my live stream on there, under my lives tab there. But so I go way deeper into it. We're not really going to rehash a lot of those predictions here, but there's a lot of different ways that we can see this play out. There's many different ways. So we have that. And then the last thing that I wrote down on this was how Trump is seeing that he's not loved by the people anymore. He's completely fractured the movement, completely destroyed both the, open tent movement that we had, the big tent movement that we had as like my, and I say we like loosely here. I voted equally left and right in my life. So, but really there were, what I say we, I'm talking about, there are many people that came together and voted for Trump who otherwise wouldn't vote for Trump, who kind of are centrists like myself, a lot of these different interests that came together and pushed him to the finish line because of what was being sold. And we see with the second administration, it's very different than the first administration, and that's so it's easy for people who have always been against Trump and everything to sit and be like, well, I've always known he was a liar. It's like, well, people are really satisfied with the first one. They're not satisfied with this one unless they're a boomer or something like that. And then that even deals with the Pluto placement that you have with boomers, which you get that with Pluto in Leo. You get some Pluto Virgos, but it's mostly a Pluto Leo thing with boomers, especially the boomers that cause the problems. When you think of those boomers who need to be the center of attention, that kind of stuff, this is that Leo energy that we talked about. So you've got that going on. Leo also rules the heart, though. And, it's as she was saying, Donald Trump wants to be loved. And so you're seeing him as the Uranian individual that he is. Very Uranus prominent in his chart. He's also in a Uranus return right now, Trump is. So you have all these factors that play in to the chaotic energy, chaotic nature of him. And so what are we going to really see, as I said earlier, come down the pike on this? Because, it just, I think that he feels it slipping away from him, but this is kind of what happens when your biggest donor of $300 million is Miriam Adelson, who from my city of Las Vegas, and she runs like the casino business out here, the casino industry. She's like, I guess you could say, a founder of it, or at least with the current instantiation we have of it. So there's that part that's going on with it as well. But just really interesting stuff. Now, I think the next one is where they get more into the religion stuff. So that's where I'll kind of tie in this Leo energy, all these Leo placements and transits that we're going to be having here. We're going to tie that into this kind of next breakdown I do with the next clip. So it's only 2 more clips left, shorter clips, and then we'll kind of just wrap up and talk about all of this stuff as well. All right. Got this at 4:11. Okay.
It's a system. It's for sure a system, and that's not imagined. And you need to wake up and realize that our world is in fact being run by pedophiles. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Epstein thing didn't wake you up to the fact that it's left and right, you're still asleep. If you think that our troubles in this country are white versus black, you're still asleep. If you think it's gay versus straight, you're still asleep. If you think it's like, feminism versus chauvinism, you're still asleep. We've got way bigger problems, and these are ancient problems that we have. People that worship and summon demons and believe in the occult and do it in your face. I believe Charlie's assassination was an occult ritual. Everything about it. Yeah, everything about it. And I believe the people around him are into dark, demonic stuff.
I mean, when you told me at dinner that he was assassinated in the middle of a pentagram, I was like, holy shit.
When someone sent me an old Freemason Bible, and it showed how they believe that you have to be in a pentagram to sacrifice someone. Literally shows you, like, there's the map inside of the Freemason Bible. And I looked at it and I said, Charlie was sitting in a pentagram. Sorry,
where did the Freemasons come from?
Well,
you know the history of that?
Yeah, I actually just read a book for our book in our book club. called The Secret History of America by Nicholas Hager. Really, really important read. An academic read, but a very a challenging one, an important one to get into the history of Freemasonry. And I guess Freemasonry, in many ways, obviously, it traces back. It's biblical. So you have to think about different iterations. So it's like Solomon's temple, the Masons of the temple is kind of what they're hinting at. But in terms of like the modern introduction into Western society, it begins with Francis Bacon and Paris, where Paris seems to be the home of a lot of the things that have happened in these secret societies. It's like they go to Paris to be initiated. The same thing for Sigmund Freud. He studied under Charcot, and he was similarly initiated. I don't think it's a coincidence that Paris's code is 33. If you want to dial out to Paris, it's 33. It's home of the French Revolution. There's a lot that has happened in Paris. There's a lot of evil that is taken place. But the Freemason Society, I mean, this gets into the infiltration of the Knights Templar, an intentional infiltration by Adam Weishaupt, who was funding the infiltration of various Freemason groups and bringing them all together under the Illuminati. Our founding fathers were Freemasons, and the Nicholas Hager book carefully walks you through even the symbolism on the back of a $1 bill. And to be clear, when they joined the Illuminati, it was after the Revolutionary War, but it was always done in mind, and Adam Weishaupt was an open Satanist, with using Christianity as a shell to further their satanic causes. So you have to really go backward to understand the theology, the infiltration, how the Scottish Rite, which is the Scottish Rite Freemasons, which had everything to do with establishing America, was really dating back from France, and the Catholic Church having Jacques de Molay hung. I think he was hung. He was killed. And these groups then went into Scotland, and that book just helps you trace how these Freemason groups arrived into America. And for them, it was seen as a new Atlantis. Okay. We keep getting caught doing all this crazy stuff across the European continent. It's always been a war against the Catholic Church. They're all explicit in their hatred of the Catholic Church, which is very compelling to me. It's
why do you think they're against the Catholics so much?
Because the Catholics were calling them what they were, Satanists. I mean, the rewrite of history, Isabella of Spain, she should be sainted. They're constantly, everything you've learned about Catholicism and the history of Catholicism is just crap in school. And there's a reason for that, because America was designed to be anti-Catholic, to be anti-Orthodox. And the reason is because Catholics hold the history. They know what they were doing on that continent. America is supposed to be kept fat, happy, and young. I truly believe that. And now America, well, we were fat, happy, and young for 250 years. And now we're arriving into our adolescent phase, and people are starting to look in the right places. It's why I encourage people to go to Russia. Russia holds the key to a lot of secrets of these maniacal psychopaths who have arrived in America, who say, well, my great so-and-so went to Russia. Got you clocked. Know exactly who your great-grandfather must have been, and your bloodthirst. The Bible says you will know them by their fruits. You do. You do. Do you have to imagine who Mark Levin's ancestors were who were in Russia? No, I got to guess. I'm going to guess they were killing the shit out of Bolsheviks, if I just had to guess. I mean, they were killing the shit out of Christians, if I had to guess. I mean, they must have been they must have built the Gulag system. There's a bloodlust that exists and an anger that is just so perceptible that's why you say you will know them by their fruits. It's the way they speak about people. There's a happiness in their eyes when they're talking about like murder. It's weird. Sometimes when I watch clips that will go viral of Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin, there's something in their like demeanor and their eyes that it's so dark. I mean, it's so dark where you really go, I think you are happy. It makes you happy when kids are being killed.
All right, so a bit to unpack there. Let's actually switch here. So really, I mean, this is just it drives home the point of the mass awakening, first of all. And there were several points that she went over, and I will reiterate, this is why I think it is such a foreshadowing of this energy we're about to move into. I think this is why it's getting so many views at almost a record-setting pace here, how fast it's getting views. As I said before, most of Shawn Ryan's videos, the ones that perform really well, I mean, they'll have 3 million views, but they'll be like a few years old or something like this. This one's already about to clear 1 million views, and it just came out. So that really tells you the thirst people are having. Another thing that I'll bring up really quick before we get into the points that she went over with this is I was recently at the doctor's office just for a checkup, nothing serious or anything like that. And I'm sitting there, and more specifically, I was at the cardiologist, and here we are talking about the Leo energy, because I have a cardiologist. You know, I've got doctors for everything. I'm a Virgo rising, you know, major sixtile placements. I always take extra good care of my health. So I was at my cardiologist, and they were doing just my routine echocardiogram or like echocardiography, I think it is. Where they just look at my heart and everything like that. I was watching it on screen with them. And the whole time I'm like watching my heart pump and the valves move and everything and blood flow through my heart. I'm talking with these ladies, and I don't even remember how it started. Usually I initiate and start these kind of conversations, but we're just talking about all things occult. We're talking about Epstein. We're talking about the politics that are going on right now, how they're over. And I got the sense that they're more like liberal women and stuff, but how they're over it and they've been lied to. And then I told them, you know, by their politicians, all that stuff, they feel like the whole Democratic Party lied to them. I'm talking to them about how, you know, what's going on the right wing, and that 2/3 of the right wing has fractured off of MAGA. It's like pretty much dead. So we're talking about that kind of stuff. We were talking about energy work, like all sorts of things. And I was pretty surprised how much these ladies knew about it and all that. So, you know, that's just another aspect to bring in there. And I only say this because we've got Pluto in Aquarius right now, okay? This is part of what I have termed the Trinity of Convergence, which is the 3 outer planets all moving into a new sign within, like, you know, a year, 2 years of each other or something like that. Because Pluto moved fully in 2025 or end of 2024, I think it was, somewhere in there. Pluto moved back fully into Aquarius. And then we had Neptune move into Aries fully without retrograding back out earlier this year. And then we also had earlier this year Uranus move into Gemini. Okay, and these are the three, astrologically, the 3 outer planets that you're dealing with. So we had all of that, but each of these, and so first I'll say with Pluto and Aquarius here, so Pluto rules the occult. It rules the things that are hidden, that kind of stuff. So when you're talking about like tarot and weird mystic occultic things like that, you know, or just things going on behind the scenes, ritual stuff like what they're talking about here a little, or touching on a little bit here. This is the kind of stuff that's going to be ruled by Pluto, especially when you're dealing with Satanism stuff and all that too, because it does rule death, communing with the dead, those types of things as well. It's the underworld. So you got that, but yeah, Pluto rules the occult, and with Pluto ruling the occult, well, Pluto in Aquarius, now that we've had it move in, this is going to be people learning about the occult, like it becoming very accessible to the people, to the collective, because that is the Aquarius energy right there. And that, as it starts to come into it's already in opposition with Jupiter, but as the sun starts to come in and illuminate all of that, this is that July 26th date that we're talking about. Hopefully I didn't say June 26th earlier, but the July 26th date that we're talking about here, we have that coming. It's going to illuminate a lot of it, and you're going to see a lot more of this. And I think you're going to be surprised, if you're someone who's been into this for years and years and years, the people that you talk to, the things that they're going to know about, especially stuff they might be finding out right now, or not so much right now, but maybe a week ago, because we had Mars, we had all these planets that were crossing Taurus, and they were crossing Algol, okay, the star Algol, and that it rules. There's a lot of things we can get into with Algol. We won't go too deep, but the one thing I'll bring up is the algorithm. You have things like that. Now you can bring the algorithm into other stuff like Aquarius too. You can bring it into other things, but there's an interesting connection between the star Algol and the algorithm, you know, and that's like, of course, where that comes from. too, where that word comes from. So you've got that going on. But yes, to kind of pop back a little bit to the trinity of convergence thing I'm talking about. So with that, you notice how they're tying a lot of this in with Satanism and like all of these deeper things, and then they're bringing Catholicism into it, all of that. Well, it's so interesting because, especially talking about the history of Freemasonry and that, all of that they touched on, I think that's so interesting because in my series, and you go back, this is on my live streams, you can go back and check this and look into it all. But I did this huge deep dive under Pluto and Aquarius into Freemasonry and all that. So what my whole thesis on the Trinity of Convergence is about is that each one of these outer planets is tied to an eschatology. And what eschatology means is it's the study of the end times, or study of biblical prophecy, study of prophecy, end times prophecy for each respective religion. Okay. And so with that, I was able to tie Pluto in Aquarius to Judaism, and then look at that interesting tie they're making between Judaism and Satanism and the Knights Templar. And I'm not even necessarily saying Judaism in its pure form is not what you would call satanic or anything like that, but there's such a longer conversation to have on that, but we'll just leave that alone right now, okay? But in terms of the secret societies, this connection between what you want to call Satanism, Luciferianism, Judaism, and then Freemasonry and the whole track that Freemasonry falls. I'm using Freemasonry or Illuminati loosely because you can get into Knights Templar, you can get into all these things that were infiltrated, all these things that they're talking about. But I was able to tie Pluto and Aquarius to that, into a major time that we had Pluto and Aquarius. Every time we have Pluto go into an Aquarius, because I went back for quite some time, we have major things happening with Judaism, major upheavals, where they believe their end times prophecy is coming forward. There's stuff with Sabbatai Zevi that goes on with there, and I don't believe it is when Sabbatai Zevi is. I'm a little rusty on this. I don't believe it was when Sabbatai Zevi was born, who is essentially hailed as a type of, I guess he founded a totally new sect of Judaism, which a lot of Zionists follow, and viewed as a type of Messiah figure. Sabbatai Zevi, and you can go very, very deep into his lore if you want to. But no, I forget if it was he was born during Pluto and Aquarius, or his movement reaches peak at Pluto and Aquarius. I believe it was his movement reaching its peak at Pluto and Aquarius. But anyway, so you've got that aspect. And then you've got Uranus, Gemini. Well, this is like very tied to Christianity, Uranus and Gemini, and their end times belief, end time prophecy, all that stuff. So, and one example you can bring up with that is Salem witch trials, where everyone thought it was the end of the world, and they were I was going to say like crucifying, I guess you could say that, but persecuting people for thinking that they were being a witch, and everyone was going completely insane. And then you've got Neptune in Aries, and this is very much tied to Islam. And what do we see happening right now? We have an eschatological convergence that's happening right now, where all of these people, especially the people at the top, the elites, this gets into that Leo energy that we keep on coming back around to, are all vying for control of who's going to push forward their eschatology, their end times. And you can even tie the Pluto and Aquarius. Look at all the Jewish people or Zionists who are running the AI thing. So they believe they're going to bring about their eschatology, their end times prophecy through AI. Okay, and then that's going to be coupled in with the stuff we talked about earlier, which is the satanic type of mysticism and all of that. All of these things are kind of connected into that. But that's where Pluto and Aquarius is very important. And we're having these oppositions that are coming in with all these outer planets having shifted now, which is going to just be really interesting. So something to keep an eye out for. What else did I put down here? Also, keep in mind the New Atlantis thing that she's talking about too, because after we watch the next clip, the last clip, that's going to be really important too, New Atlantis, because that is their belief, is that America is the New Atlantis. She brought up 250 years. It's so interesting that we had such these major once-in-a-lifetime transits that are coming in for their first time, that are happening during the 250th year, like this Mars-Uranus conjunction, during a Uranus return of America, during a Jupiter return of America as well. We just left the Jupiter return, but we still had, like, right as they came in to the conjunction, I believe we were still at that last degree of Jupiter in Cancers, and that's America's placement there. So all these major things that are being aspected in America's chart. And then also, we haven't really heard a whole lot from Russia right now. If you check my channel, I have a live stream, the astrological charts of Russia. And so all of these things they're talking about with religion and this Leo energy that comes through and all this either heavily opposes or aspects Russia's chart, because Russia's got a lot of Aquarian placements in its chart. Okay, a lot of Aquarian placements, a lot of Capricorn placements there. Very similar to the chart of Germany. And there's a big role that these two countries are going to actually be playing together in the coming years that we see in the next like 10, 20 years here, because these are long transits of these outer planets. But that's worth bringing up. And then I wrote down one last thing on this. Crap, what does this word say? Oh no, I just wrote it down really quick. Oh yes, the way that they hate the Catholic Church and Christianity. And so this gets into that South Node Leo that we're talking about, the energy that's being moved away from, or something like that. So we're going to see that coming in from these people who have their ruling eschatology, the Jews with their ruling eschatology being very tied to Pluto and Aquarius, which of course is the opposite sign of Leo. So that's a huge thing and a huge crackdown we're going to be seeing that comes in on Christianity, on Catholicism, even them trying to co-opt this stuff too, leaders trying to co-opt this. We've got all these different placements that come in through this that are just very interesting, of like, yeah, they can try to co-opt it, they could try to do this or that, but that, so all that going on too. But yeah, and Russia's chart has a huge role in all of this. There's this play between Russia and the US for the coming events that are going to come. And really, I guess you could say a type of arms race that'll look different than your normal arms race. I think it'll be more of like an AI arms race and stuff. But you're going to have shifting borders, shifting sovereignty of countries too. And that's another way that this can hit, especially when you have Neptune and Aries. That is another way that you can hit. And Neptune and Saturn in Aries, really, having shifting borders, shifting sovereignty, dissolving borders. That's the dissolution that Neptune rules to. The dissolution, the dissolving of borders, of sovereignty, of nation states, the type of thing that we're moving into. And I'm not saying I want us to be moving into this thing. I'm not like, yeah, let's go globalism. What I'm saying is, though, these are the things that we can expect to see, especially over the next 15 years with Neptune. But what we really are in this preview right now. We're in this preview of this energy right now. So we've only got one more clip to watch, and we'll kind of wrap up, do final thoughts and everything. But let's get into this last one, and this is going to deal more with the UFO, UAP. I don't like to use the term UAP because it's like a psyop, but the UFO disclosure kind of thing that's coming in right now, and even age of disclosure, all that. They talk briefly on that. So there were a couple things I wanted to add there, and astrologically as well. All right. This is at 420A. 42040.
Shape shift into demons in real life.
What do you think about all this UFO, UAP, alien shit that's coming out all of a sudden?
Distraction.
Do you think it's a distraction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or do you think it's a narrative and they're going to try to pull a false flag alien invasion?
I think the government has had technology and has hidden technology for a long time. And I think whenever they start threatening to do disclosures in a time where people are waking up about the ultimate disclosure, which is who rules over us, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of time to give us this. And now there seems to be a real awakening happening. People talking about demons, people talking about the occult, people talking about Baal worshippers and child sacrifice. And that's a real threat.
That's personally what I think all this UAP shit is. I think it's all demonic entities.
There are demonic entities around us.
I also think it's interesting how it is resurfaced right in the midst of the Epstein shit. Right in the midst of Pam Bondi saying the Dow's at 50,000. How many people do you have coming after you? How many death threats do you get?
All day, every day.
Do you take them seriously?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a person in jail for trying to kill me. Yeah, I take him seriously. Because I said...
Tried to kill you?
For talking about Jewish history, talking about that Rabbi Schneerson tomb that Trump prayed over, and they all go into Brooklyn and pray over that guy. You should look into that guy.
What? What tomb?
Yeah, you start talking about the Chabad Lubavitch, and they lose their minds, the history of the Chabad Lubavitch. But if you open up looking into Sigmund Freud, if everyone listening could just read The Assault on Truth, and the second book after you read that is Sigmund Freud and the Jewish mystical tradition, you'll figure it out.
All right.
You'll figure it out.
Well, I got you another present. I got you another present.
What is it?
Here, let me grab it.
I actually love presents.
Yeah, and so that was an interesting one too, because talking about the well, first of all, I said keep Atlantis in your head, you know, because they're talking about the UFO, UAP kind of stuff, and really with that, the whole thing with it is they're trying to frame it in this way, and I think it will, like, the best people are going to fall for this framing. Let me actually switch my screen here. I think like some of the best people that we may follow for a lot of news, for a lot of these things, I think even they will fall for this kind of deception. But when you're talking about, and I thought that it was in this clip, I might have went a little too far. I won't go back or anything, but they do talk about thinking that that the UFOs and all that, maybe they did say it and I was paying attention, are demons and stuff like that. And really, this is where the work of Gigi Young is so groundbreaking. And so if you haven't heard of her, check out her channel. Really incredible work. A spiritualist, and she gets into the different spiritual realms, and she comes at it at an angle of through Western esotericism and through Eastern esotericism, and she synthesizes all of it and then gives you a spiritual framework to work with, to be able to navigate the spiritual realms and that kind of stuff, so you kind of know what you're getting into. And she pulls from a lot of Rudolf Steiner's work, Helena Blavatsky's work, and I know that she's not a big fan of Helena Blavatsky. I'm not either. I don't want you to think that I mean she endorses her. I endorse Helena Blavatsky's work much, anything like that. But she does pull from them. She gives you different systems through which you can understand this. She'll throw from like Indian stuff, like that, all sorts of. I mean, that's the Eastern, you know. But she pulls from all these different systems, shows how they're similar, and gives you like a framework of spiritual entities, of angels, demons, that kind of stuff. And so we understand and we know what demons are. Okay, and so when people are pushing out the psyop, when you have these religious leaders, and this is the thing with all this Leo energy and the religious leaders around Christianity that we're gonna see going on here, is thinking that what's coming through are demons, people clutching way too hard to Christianity. And I'm a Christian, so I'm not even talking any shit on Christianity, okay? Like, I'm totally a Christian. But what I'm saying is people using that in a way and clutching to it for safety, and then misunderstanding the things that they're seeing going on around them. Because what I would argue with the whole alien idea is there's like a connection you can make to demons, or more specifically like to Ahriman, which would be like the technology version of, I guess you could say, Satan. Ahriman would be kind of the cold machine logic. So you start to tie in a lot of AI. Well, what else is rising right now? AI. But to kind of wrap this back over, to pop back, when you're dealing with the alien thing, like, we know what demons are. We know in what cases, like with certain rituals that happen where demons can be made manifest for a short time in this reality. But to claim that they are in technology riding around, that is not a demonic thing. Now, that's more of like an Ahrimanic thing that you could argue. And then this gets into, and it took me a long time to get through this information with Gigi Young, but that if you look into Atlantis and what they were doing, genetic modification, all these things, that what we're looking at with the aliens are actually the remnants of the Atlantean culture. And this would make sense because then it wouldn't violate the free will of humanity by another species from another solar system, another species from another solar system or another star system. You know what I'm saying? All of that. How would the creator allow that to happen if we live in a free will universe? Those are the kind of things that don't add up, is where these people who are in the spiritual community will preach those kind of things, that we live in a free will universe. But then why are aliens coming in and violating our free will? To say it's through these little tricks that they do, and they trick us into giving our permission and that kind of stuff. But I think what makes more sense is we've got the remnants of the Atlantean culture who were involved in genetic modification. Now, you don't need to even throw out any of the alien stories. It's so interesting because I went through my whole 20s burning through all sorts of abduction experiences, encounters, all of it. And it doesn't invalidate having this idea. It doesn't invalidate any of them. It just means they're coming from a different place, because that would make sense with the Greys. Because the Greys say themselves that they got into cloning. And then from that, they actually don't have souls anymore. And this is the whole thing, is they're trying to, this is why they're crossbreeding with humanity, is they're trying to get back onto the reincarnational path. And because now they have this soul degradation that happens every time they clone themselves. So there's that. There's the reptilians. There's all of these different things. And ultimately, this could be brought about through genetic engineering, genetic modification, those kind of things. So this is really, now I'm just giving a brief, this may seem kind of even like more of a complicated overview, but this is a brief, very simplistic overview. You would need to go to Gigi Young's work to really get the full thing. And it took me a long time to accept it. I shouldn't say a long time, but it took me 3 full days to, when she laid it all out, it took me a long time to get through the information. Then she did the killing blow, connected it all, and I was like, wow, this is true. Like, there's no angle at which you can come at the alien theory with, and with the Atlantis one, and it doesn't not only continue to not make it invalidate any of the research you've done around the alien stuff, but it's you can come at it from any angle. I've played it all out in my head for years now, and this is the conclusion I've come to. But what we're going to see is this pivot by especially the tech oligarchs, who have now, like Peter Thiel, positioned themselves within the Christian movement, trying to position themselves within the Christian movement. Here we go, touching back on that Leo energy, and position themselves in such a way that, of course, now they're going to try to push a narrative, or even do something that shatters the ideas behind our religion too. So this could be a major discovery that happens that says, oh, the aliens are our real gods. And there is this whole alien god thing that's being pushed. Why do you think that Ancient Aliens was able to garner the following that it garnered? And I shouldn't even say garner the following. Why do you think it was pushed out so much if it was such forbidden knowledge? No, this is actually a narrative that they've been working on and pushing for years and getting ready. Even Carol Rosin, she who was associated with NASA, she was the protege of Werner von Braun. Werner von Braun told her on her deathbed the last card they're going to try to pull is the alien card, and it's all a lie. And he was part of Jet Propulsion's lab, Jack Parsons' lab, this kind of stuff, okay? And Jack Parsons, of course, the one who founded, he was actually an acolyte of Aleister Crowley. Okay, and then so that's kind of where we get into like the Satanism stuff. And I'm not one of those people who's dogmatic or misunderstanding Aleister Crowley. I believe that, he did a lot of the dark stuff, so we don't have to, and wrote all about it. And that's the value in his work, for sure. But I am, these are just things that we should know that are the things around NASA. Okay, but yeah, you can bring all that back together as there's a narrative that's about to be pushed, or something connected to aliens that's about to be pushed. If you check my 4th of July conjunction stream, I'll mention that stream again. I talk about all the connections we have between the actual Roswell event and the 4th of July that we have coming up here in a couple days. And how we're going to see, I'm not even saying something's going to happen on the 4th of July, but there's this huge connection between the 250th anniversary here and the Roswell event. We've got both Mars and Uranus in Gemini. We've got a Mercury retrograde in Cancer right now, and it will be on the 4th of July, of course. There was a Mercury retrograde in Cancer during that time, during the Roswell crash, the Roswell event. And then we've also got Pluto and Aquarius. Well, Pluto was on the other side of the axis. Okay, not in opposition yet, but it will be by, I think, 2028, I think. So it will be coming up in a few years here in opposition, but it is on the other side of the axis. It's in the opposite sign right now, Pluto, the thing that keeps things hidden. It was in Leo back then. Now it's in Aquarius. So we've got that going on. I also wrote down Pluto and Aquarius. This is hidden technology opposing Leo fall of leaders, okay? So are they going to try to use this event to present new technologies that are flashy to us, so that not only the leadership doesn't have to fall, but then also to distract from this Epstein Files stuff, like Candace was talking about too. So major astrologically loaded thing. And then she was even talking about the Rabbi Smearson tomb that they go over, and then the there's this connection with Sabbatai Zevi and the Sabbatean Francis, the Sabbatean Kabbalah, all of these things. These are also things that I went over too. So you have these major connections and the Pluto Aquarius stuff, and this is all threaded together into some type of technological Ahrimanic thing that we've got in the works here that's getting ready to really present itself to the masses, and something we need to work through for the next decade or two for sure. But we are in the early stages of this unveiling right now. And so I really wanted to just get this out there before we see all this stuff happen, and put all these things out and seed all of this. And this can be something I can come back to later and reference as really when we were at the precipice of this energy that we are feeling coming on. I even had one of my best friends text me today, can you feel the impending energy? And I'm like, yeah, I totally feel it. But there is this energy of the shoe's about to drop. Something is about to happen. We feel it. We've got these earthquakes that are going off everywhere. All of these things that are looking like, even stuff like the sky in Venezuela after the earthquakes, the major earthquakes they just had after we took it over, which is interesting, right? The sky being red, looking like it's on fire, something that looks straight out of biblical prophecy. These are things we're going to see more and more. And it's up to us to have our center, to know our center, be very grounded, hold space for other individuals and all that. And remember what I said about Uranus and Gemini. People are going to think it's the end of the world. They always do when Uranus is in Gemini. And then what are they going to cling to? Well, over the next year and a half, at least, we're going to see them be clinging to religion, clinging to that type of Christed stuff. And I'm not even saying that that's wrong. It is the best. I think that Christ can lead you through these things, but the question is, especially with with Jupiter being there, how dogmatic are we going to get about it? That's the thing, because I believe Christ is the truth and the way. I'm not even trying to knock people clinging to Christianity when things get hard, or praying to Christ for these things. I will probably be doing the same thing, but we have to see how are they going to try to weaponize that against us, especially with this alien threat that's running alongside it. I love that the Pope has been posting all these things about AI. He did I'm forgetting the name of it. It's kind of a beautiful name, actually, but a huge document on just the implications of AI with the church. So that's an aspect that comes in. But these are all things we're going to need to navigate together as we move into these energies and as we get ready for the summer. Now, obviously, this is kind of more of a timeless video that you can watch. It's relevant to now, but you can even reference. It's something you can watch later on, reference later, that kind of stuff. But what I will say that is more like time sensitive is I'm doing a stream tomorrow. I'm about to set it up right now, and this is really going to get into these energies we're moving into for the summer. So if you want to know more of the specific astrology, the Mercury retrograde in Cancer that we're dealing with, the way all this stuff is going to hit you by your zodiac sign, then definitely check that out. Feel free to drop by. And yeah, I really hope you guys take it easy, and remember just to stay grounded during this all time. You guys are all beautiful souls. We came here to be beautiful souls in people's life and to assist people through this transformation and transition that we feel coming on. That it's going to be a process of quite a few years here, and we're going to see this in the second half of this year really start to unfold in a pretty explosive way. So as I said, continue to be the beautiful souls that you are. And thank you for watching Night's Light Astrology. Check out the description and check out my channel if you ever want to get a reading done by me as well. But take it easy and keep being a light out there.